Amir in the UK, pronouns are he, him, is an agnostic theist. He says, given what we know, God is the best explanation as to why anything at all exists. So, Amir, you are live with Arden and Taylor. What's going on?
Hey, Arden. Hey, Taylor. Yeah, thank you for having me on. And Taylor, I know we spoke last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since then, I've taken some time to brush up on my theology and reread some of the classical arguments and reflect more deeply. And I still believe in God, but I'm honest enough to admit that the theory isn't without its challenges. Um, but when I look at the options for why there's something rather than nothing, brute facts or infinite regress, quantum fluctuations, or whatever it is, none of them are compelling. And I still admit, the God hypothesis, it still has its own challenges. But when compared to the alternatives, it strikes me as the most coherent and far-reaching explanation that we currently have. I mean, I don't claim it answers everything. I just think it opens the door to deeper meaning, better than anything else on the table. So yeah, just to kick things off, I wanted to ask you both, given what we know, do you both agree or disagree that God is the best explanation for why anything at all exists?
Definitely
Disagree.
disagree.
Okay, then you're both saying that something other than God is a better explanation. What is that explanation, and why is it better? I mean, I'm happy to defend my view, but I guess now the ball is in your court.
So,
Um,
you go first. Sorry, I talked
yeah.
like all last call.
I was just gonna say it, like, I don't claim. I'm gonna say what I said last time. Last time you called in, I don't claim to have those answers. I do think there is probably a better explanation out there. That doesn't mean I know it. But I'm not just because I don't know it. I just don't think that leads to me saying God is the best explanation. That's just not how my brain operates, and it never has operated that way. So, can I give you a better answer than God? I don't think I just don't think saying God makes sense in my mind. I think me saying I don't know makes more sense to me than saying God. It's more honest to me. It's more, it might not be satisfying to some people, but I don't need to fill in the blank. So I'm okay with saying I'm not sure what that is. That's just where I'm at.
I feel like,
Can I?
or
Sorry, go on, Arden.
it's okay. I don't have a lot to add on to that. I was just gonna say, I feel like just on Occam's razor, like I could say I like, so the question was, do we disagree that God is the best solution to why there's something rather than nothing? And I said disagree, mostly because I feel like you can just Occam's razor God out of it and just have like an eternal universe or a universe that just started. Like, I don't have to posit or know why that is to say that like God seems like an unnecessary entity in the question.
I mean, just to reinstate what the question was, and I was very, I guess, delicate with the wording. It's given what we know, do you both agree or disagree that God is the best explanation for why anything at all exists? So when Taylor, you mentioned, I don't know of other options, etc. That therefore would add credence to the fact that God is the best explanation. Now, in all of this, even if we concede just for a second that God is the best explanation, you may not think it's a good explanation, but it's still the best explanation that we have. So, in fact, to say that God is the best explanation that we have for why anything at all exists is, in fact, a statement that can be issued by an atheist. Do you see the point that I'm getting there? Do you agree? Do you agree that the statement, rather?
Well, yeah.
I could say that in my mind, saying that the universe or something has always existed would be just as good of a thing to me as just saying God. There's no difference to me because I don't know about either one. So it just like I don't really think God's the best answer because you could put anything else in that spot and be like, sure. Like you could say something other than God, some kind of higher power that isn't even a god, or I don't know, or laws of the universe, something. And I would just say, okay, like that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I think God is just God is just something like our human minds came out with. That doesn't really mean much to me. Like, and no, I just don't agree with the fact that as an atheist, you could say, sure, like people could say that if they wanted to, but I wouldn't personally say that
Mhm.
that's the best answer.
So you posited there, Taylor, you posited that, it could be the possibility that the universe has always existed. When you say that, are you claiming that it's more likely that the universe has always existed, or it's less likely, or it has an equal footing to the God hypothesis?
I don't think we have any way of knowing the likelihood of any of those outcomes.
So if we don't know what the outcomes would be of any of those options, then how can we say, or how could you both say that God is the worst of these explanations from what we do know?
Well, to
Wouldn't
be
it
clear, we didn't
therefore?
say it's the worst. I said it's not the best. And like I said, because of Occam's razor, like it's an unnecessary entity in the explanation. Like without knowing anything, without knowing what the likelihoods are, adding an unnecessary entity in there, I can already just logically say that like that's probably less likely than an explanation that doesn't include that entity unnecessarily.
Okay, so you're saying that it's not the best explanation that we have because it goes against Occam's razor. Is that correct?
Uh, Not exactly, but kind of.
You
I'm
see,
trying to think of how I could
because look,
rephrase it to make it more clear.
go
Go
for it.
ahead.
Take your time.
No, no, no. You can respond. I'll think.
Well,
I don't want dead
you
air.
see, look, if we just go down the route of Occam's razor, which I do actually think is irrelevant, but I think it's an interesting point to touch on nonetheless. A theist might respond to the, I don't know, the parsimony of Occam's and say, it's I guess it's the ultimate simplicity of the creator. So the creator is conceived as a necessary, uncaused, and simple entity, and it's fundamentally different from the contingent, complex universe. So, as a timeless, immaterial being, God does not require an explanation of origin, unlike the contingent universe or the multiverse. So, in that sense, Occam's razor can go both ways depending on how you approach it, and then I guess it just
No,
becomes a question of
no,
how.
that's not how Occam's razor works. Occam's razor is about not multiplying entities unnecessarily. And so like my whole point is that necessarily adding an extra when we don't have any reason to know of any of the reasons that there is something rather than nothing. And it could have been just naturally, it just happened and we don't know exactly why. Adding God onto that is adding an entity unnecessarily. So like there's no amount of simplicity to the God or how powerful the God could be that would absolve it from the problem of being an unnecessary entity in the of the possible, things the possible explanations that there could be, at least based on the way
Okay,
you've described it.
fair point. Just 2 points to that as well. Like you see, the first thing is that naturalism, it gives us the tools to explain what happens within the universe, but it can't account for why the universe or the natural order exists at all. It's I don't know. It's like naturalism is almost like being stuck inside a video game and insisting the game created itself while ignoring the existence of a programmer. Um, and again, in all of this, I have to make the point that the God hypothesis doesn't then come without its own challenges and merits. It's just trying to make an observation that, irrespective of what denomination we fall under, whether we're naturalists or supernaturalists, at the end of the road, we're going to be facing some sort of absurdity in why anything at all exists. And I think that God is a better explanation as to why anything at all exists. Again, you don't have to be necessarily committed to the view that it's a good explanation, but just a better explanation is over the alternatives that we do have right now.
Um, I actually think that uh something like what I said earlier, like let's say the universe always existed or something, that would actually make more sense to me because in my mind, if there was a God, why on Earth would he not show himself at all? Why would we not have any proof that he's real? Why, like, all of these things, you know what I mean? Like, there's not anything proving that he's real. That seems like very unlikely to me, and even less likely than the universe always existing or some other explanation.
I think you get into like a turtles all the way down situation where it's like, also, why is God not subject to all of these same questions? Also, you said naturalism can't explain itself, and I don't know that you can say that either. Like, I would agree that as of right now, naturalism can't necessarily explain why there's something rather than nothing, but I don't know that it's always going to be that case. Like, we might have some revolutionary, discovery in theoretical physics that could actually be a breakthrough in understanding exactly why the rapid expansion started when it did, and could give us some information about, well, I was going to say before the Big Bang, but I don't think that is really a coherent phrase. Like, before
Sure.
time doesn't make sense.
Sure. I mean, all of the scientific models that we do have in theories, they'll still never be able to address the question as to why anything at all exists. I mean,
How do you know
string
that,
theory,
though? You say they'll never be able to. How do you know that?
Well, I mean, my question to you then, Arden, would be, what explanation can you think of or even fathom that can let's just grant for a second that
My
any one of these
incredulity
theories
is
true.
irrelevant, though. But the fact that I might not be able to think of something doesn't mean that naturalism or science won't be able to come up with an explanation in the future. My incredulity is irrelevant.
The fact that we can't even fathom an explanation would add credence to the fact that an explanation can't even be issued. I mean, look, there's no theory that we have that's on the table right now, string theory, quantum gravity, that can explain why anything at all exists. Even if you grant it as being true, if we just said that string theory was true for a second, it still doesn't explain why anything at all exists. If we grant that the multiverse theory is true, it still doesn't address why anything at all exists. If anything, it just pushes the question back further. I mean, the point of so what is that, again, it's just coming back to the original point. Given what we know, I believe that God is the best explanation as to why anything at all exists.
And we disagree. There needs to be like music, like we're at a playground on a merry-go-round, and we got a revolution. There, we got one way all the way around.
Do you at least see why people like myself, even with these ongoing dialogues that we do have, still remain unconvinced to why naturalism might be a superior explanation as to why anything at all exists?
I think that people just don't like not knowing things, and I think they rather put some like I think they rather just come up with an answer than and like just be uncomfortable, or yeah, then be uncomfortable in this space of I don't know. I also want to say I cannot remember if Alyssa said this last time or if I had this conversation before. I can't remember, but I've had this conversation in the past where there's so many things that in our history, medical mysteries, whatever it might have been, or stuff about the body we didn't understand, or germs or whatever, where we always attributed these things to supernatural elements or God or whatever it was. And every single time we discovered it was something else. Every single time we discovered it was something from the natural world. Every single time. So, with that track record, don't you think that there's a high possibility that this ends up being the same?
No, because with the example that you've given, with say, back in the days when someone had an illness and they attributed that to some supernatural thing, you could still fathom an explanation as to what it could be. That's not.
And Taylor and I
couldn't.
But also Taylor and I have posited natural explanations for what the start of everything could be. So like.
But you haven't posited any explanations. You said that in the future there could be a possibility. So in fact, that's
we've posited things. The fact that I don't subscribe to them doesn't mean we didn't. There could be any number of natural explanations for why there's something rather than nothing. There's like the expanding, contracting universe theories. I know Aaron Adair, our physicist on the channel, has mentioned something about some tunneling particle that might be responsible for the expand. There's so many explanations we could posit, like that are natural.
Could we just take one of those, Arden, take your pick and tell me how that particular theory explains why anything at all exists? say the
I
expanding
couldn't.
contracting
I'm
law.
not a physicist.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you that.
So therefore, you have faith in certain scientists that are making that claim on your behalf.
No.
Is that correct?
No.
So you don't have faith.
Well, it would
in that?
depend how you define faith. Sorry, this particular bothers the shit out of me. This faith conflation thing. Faith has two definitions in common parlance. One is confidence, and the other is belief in things unseen, as like that's like the biblical definition of faith, right? My faith, as you put it in science, is confidence. But I don't have confidence in the scientists. I have confidence in the methods, the data-driven methods that show, oh, with this p-value and these data, the likelihood of this outcome being what the data indicated is like 95.5% odds, right? That's what my confidence is in. It's in statistical data. You just like randomly being like, what if like God kicked it off, yo? That's not the same thing. That is belief in something you have no reason to believe, as opposed to like belief in the fact that scientists are doing good science.
I mean, I'm not discrediting the fact that scientists are doing good science, but they are observing and they are making certain theories about things that happen within the natural
But it's not
world
faith.
and what we're trying to explain.
Not in the way that you meant it.
So, I mean, I'm happy to say that you have confidence in the sciences, and I don't want that to then, go down the route of semantics. So you have confidence in the scientists. Do you have confidence in the scientists that are also theists as well? Bear in mind, there is still a large cohort of scientists who believe in God. Do you have confidence in what they say, or is it only the atheist scientists that you have confidence in? And if so, why are you selecting the atheist scientists?
Again, I don't have confidence in scientists. I have confidence in the science they're doing. Sorry, Taylor, you're trying to get in. I'm being annoying.
Oh no, it's fine. It doesn't matter if a scientist believes in God and they can still prove something scientifically. I don't care if they believe in God. Like there's many reasons why somebody would still believe in God and be a scientist or whatever. That just doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, these arguments, though, over why anything at all exists are not necessarily scientific arguments to have, because we're now trying to put a hypothesis under scrutiny where that hypothesis is in God is not bound by naturalism. It transcends naturalism. It transcends the natural law. So to reduce it down to science, I think in itself is nonsensical. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you have confidence in the scientific method, and some scientists are trying to appeal to a universe that has no transcendent cause for its origins or its explanation. What I'm trying to understand there is, if you have trust in the scientific method, which in itself is in dispute between scientists that could be God believers and those that reject God's existence, then why are you selecting those that are giving us a one-sided view of the scientific method when it comes to the origins of reality and why anything at all exists?
That was wild. I'm not doing any of those things. And I don't know why you want to try to paint us as being biased towards only atheist conclusions in science. When scientists are able to demonstrate with some kind of like actual evidence that it is more reasonable to believe in God, I bet you every single person who works on this channel will accept that information. But so far, all you have is speculation and adding an unnecessary entity onto an explanation for just because you feel like it. So like, I don't know what to do with that.
I mean, I agree that scientists will never be able to demonstrate that a God exists because, again,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I would never say science will never. You'll never hear me say, here, this is the only time you'll hear me make a you'll never statement. You'll never hear me say science will never, facts will never, naturalism will never, because I can't see the future. Like, I'm always going to leave out room for the fact that I can be wrong, that data can be overturned with better data. I'm not going to make it's like a straw man. You want me to be saying like God can never be proven by science, and that's not something that I would say.
That's something that I would say. And I would say that with a very high degree of confidence that science could never prove or
Why?
disprove the existence of God, because by its very nature, you're testing a hypothesis that exists outside of the remit of your experiment. There's no experiment that you can devise, fathom, or even possibly imagine that can scrutinize something that is not part of your experiment. Um,
What if God decided to make himself provable? Couldn't he do that?
or as in just pop up somewhere and be like, yo, I'm right here. You'd be pointing
Yeah,
your
why
telescope
not?
in the wrong
That's why I'm
place.
saying that's why I think it's not a good answer to like how everything became to exist because like why the hell would he not do that? That does not make any sense. Like why is his whole thing let's guess. Let's make him guess. Let's never show him that I exist. That's so dumb to me. I just don't get
Oh,
it. That doesn't make any sense. What sense does that make?
evidently,
It's so dumb.
he's clearly made it very difficult to be able to detect it in an empirical way.
And yet you use
I mean,
male pronouns for him, which is fucking wild.
Yeah.
I think that's just convention. In reality, I
Okay.
would be referring to God as it, but that just sounds a little bit abhorrent. Like it is, it just sounds a little bit weird. And God isn't here to clarify his pronouns. So, for the sake of argument, we're just going to go by convention. But I
Maybe
agree,
God should
God is
be.
not actually a he. I just heard a
Maybe
beeping
God
noise.
oh, I
I
don't
don't know
know.
what that is. I don't.
Maybe like
Uh,
why do you think God doesn't show himself ever? Do you think he thinks it's fun to see us be like, maybe he exists? Is that fun for
well,
him or
it's
what? What's the deal?
look, little bit of a sidetrack, but I do have my own reasons as to why I think he's not making it very clear why he exists. Maybe one of them is around testing our morality. As in, if God made it very obvious that he exists, then we would all be living a certain lifestyle where I don't think any of us would be sinners because we understand what the consequences would be, heaven and hell.
Um,
Shit, if God exists, I'm never going to be doing anything bad. You know what I mean? Um,
wait. But that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that there are people, if you go by something like the Bible, there are characters in the Bible who know he existed and they didn't do exactly what he said. There are plenty like I'm
yeah,
confused by that. And
I mean, I'm
you're
confused
saying
by it as well. I'm not a
but
Christian, by the way.
but you're kind of talking as if God showed himself, then all of a sudden we would lose our free will. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Not,
We would
not
still be
that we
able to
would
make
lose.
choices.
I wasn't implying that we would lose our free will. We would still have our free will and we'd still have complete agency over our decision making, but it would generally be the case, I would suspect, for the overwhelming majority of people, that people would freely do good things, fearing eternal punishment or damnation in hell. And so, in that sense, it's
Wouldn't
almost
that be a good
tainted.
thing? Do you think that'd be a
Yeah,
good
but I
thing?
think that I would then suspect that. I mean, sure, it would be a good thing, but I think it would then defeat the purpose of why we were ultimately created to be given complete agency over our actions without influence.
No,
Because
actually,
you
I
can only
think the
say
fact that you just said that actually makes your God like super evil and immoral. If you're saying that if God showed himself, that more people would freely listen to God's morality and avoid hell as a result, then it sounds like your God, if he actually wants people to not suffer for all eternity, he would have a moral obligation to make himself
Yeah.
more obviously known. Otherwise, that means God is willingly sending people who would believe non-resistant non-believers if they had good reason. And God's saying, nah, I don't care that they're going to suffer for all eternity. I want them to figure it out on
um,
their own.
I definitely see where you're coming from, but I almost think it's like, these people that on social media are doing charitable deeds and they're going up to these homeless people and they're like, yo, here's $100, go wild with it. I really care for you. But the actual sentiment behind that charitable deed is that they just want social media clout. Would you say that they're actually doing a good thing?
Wait. What about the people who do believe in hell though? And the whole reason they're being good or believing in God is to avoid hell. But, like, that's still, is that not the same thing?
It absolutely it is, and I think people who are only acting good, where really what they just, because I think it comes down to intention. If someone intends to do harm, but they refrain from it because they, they're hoping for paradise and they're fearing hell, I don't actually think that makes them a good person. And God is the ultimate judge. Someone that has really evil, sinister thoughts, but withholds from that and does good because they think, oh, I'm going to get into paradise. So they don't actually think they're a good
Then
person. A good person resonates those
So,
thoughts deep within their soul.
sorry, you were about to jump in, Taylor.
I was just gonna ask, so then, like, if that doesn't make someone a good person, that's like a bad way to go about it. Why does God make it that entire system?
Yeah.
Why does he create the system that way? That doesn't make any sense. Like, no one's gonna know hell exists or believe hell exists and then be like not afraid of it. Like people will tell me that's the case. I don't believe them. That's like saying, if I leave my boyfriend, he's gonna beat me up, but I'm not afraid of him beating me up because I'm never gonna leave. It's like, well, you're still afraid of it though in the back of your mind. You know what I mean? That it just doesn't make any sense. And like, if he didn't want people to be insincere with believing in him or loving him or doing the right things, then maybe he shouldn't have created the threat of hell because obviously that's going to have an impact on people's motivations, right?
Yeah, sure. But I guess this comes under. By the way, I was kind of a little bit sidetracked by the room. I feel like there's an angry mob of people in this room that want to castrate me, for lack of a better word.
Don't watch chat. It's not worth you
There's a
watching.
lot. There's
Um,
a lot of testosterone in that chat, and I'm hoping that people on there can just see that we're trying to have an intellectual dialogue.
knowing our chat, I think it's actually a lot less testosterone than you might think. We actually have a larger portion of our audience is female than most other atheist audiences. Not most, but a lot. I'm curious, Amir, does your God want as many people to go to heaven and as few people to go to hell as possible?
Yeah, I mean, the actual viewpoint that I adopt is something more. It's like solipsism. It's in, I think, and this is going to sound quite controversial to most people, but I think that the only real thing that exists in this world is you, and everything else you can almost consider it an illusion. So, in that, I mean, look, the only thing that we can say with 100% certainty, and I think you'll both probably agree with this, is that I am experiencing something. That's it. Like you can say that with 100% certainty. Everything else could be 99.999%. It could be 1%. It could be, but with 100% certainty, you could say, I am experiencing something, whatever that something is. I'm experiencing something. So I believe that if a God exists, everything that exists in the world has been created purposely for you, and you are being judged by your own moral compass because we all have different moral dispositions.
Wait, okay. How is this even in the ballpark of answering my question? I for a refresher, I asked, does your God want as many people to go to heaven and as few people to go to hell as possible?
So I'm trying to answer the question as in to say that he wants you to go to heaven. Other people going to heaven doesn't make sense under a solipsism worldview, as in only you are real, Arden, or only you are real, Taylor. I don't exist. No one in the chat exists. None of it is real. Only you are real, and you're being judged by your own
What?
moral compass.
That's not even like what you're saying like solipsism is real for every individual person? That's the weirdest version of solipsism I've ever heard.
It is. It's a unique twist on solipsism. It's my own unique take on it.
I don't think it makes sense. I don't think that's solipsism.
How are you defining solipsism? Maybe I've muddled the definitions.
Well, solipsism is just like whether or not anything is like actually real, right? Like
Correct. That's my understanding of it as well. And I'm
so solipsism couldn't be like, we can't all be brains in a vat. If I'm a brain in a vat, none of you exist. So you can't also be a brain in a vat, and that would mean like everyone is simultaneously existing and not existing. Like it's logically incoherent.
Yeah, I mean, this is call it like an extended, unique version of solipsism, as in I'm just making the claim that the only real thing that exists in this cosmos is you. Nothing else exists, and you are being judged. And it also, I think, explains the problem of suffering. You know, when a child is born.
Wait, if I'm all that exists in the entire cosmos, who's judging me?
God is judging you.
So it's me and God.
Correct.
Okay, Amir, I'm gonna tap out on this one, man. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that makes any fucking sense at all. And since it's very esoteric, the just you belief, I'm not sure how much value there is in us sitting here unpacking it, because nobody who's watching is going to be impacted or influenced, because you are like the only person on the planet who has this view of God. So, Taylor, do you have any last thoughts you want to give to Amir before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I was trying to think of something, but I don't think I have anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, Amir, you've got like 15 seconds to give a last thought.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on the line. And I really do enjoy these conversations. I think they're very thought-provoking. They make you reflect on your own viewpoint. And to all the people in the chat, I hope you have a great day.
Cool. Thanks, Amir. Bye. That was weird. So
oh my gosh.
I'm really, listen, I've been doing this for like 4.5 years. I know Matt's been doing it for 20. We've had a lot of people with a lot of experience here. It's very rare that I ever hear a new argument. Like maybe once a year, someone will present something that I've actually never heard of. Everyone is in their own solipsistic fugue state. That is where we all exist and don't exist simultaneously.
I have a bad habit of like, so he called last time. I have a bad habit of like when things like that come up, just shutting down, because I'm like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah.
And it went the same way as last time. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. So yeah, that's how I kind of knew what was coming because I read the little thing. And I was like, oh no. I know I wouldn't have anything new to say, so I felt bad, but yeah.
It was good. I mean, like, I always think, like, while the people in the chat are recurring, most viewers on like YouTube in general aren't going to watch a lot of your content. So it's worth reiterating yourself a lot, like to get the same kind of message out there. As annoying as it is for the creator, repeating yourself is actually really, really good for the audience. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, and this was where we ended was also like nowhere near where we started, which was that whole notion of like, why is there something rather than nothing, I guess? Is God more reasonable for there being something rather than nothing?
Right. And last time we stayed on that point basically the entire time, where like it's hard for me to go past like I just reject the thing of like, oh, it's just hard when you reject the whole thing of like, oh, well, this is a better answer. It's like, but it's just not. Like, I just don't think it is. And that it seems to be like that's all the further we can go, because there's no, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's much there past that. So yeah, I don't know, but it'd be like that sometimes.
I was honestly shocked when he brought up heaven and hell at all. I was like, based on how he's been talking, I genuinely didn't think he would have believed in a God who did a heaven and hell thing.
Yeah, I was a little actually kind of surprised by that too, because I think he said he wasn't a Christian. So I don't know.
And like a subscriber, Jimmy will have to go on a polyamorous dating show to win some prize money.
Wait, I want to do that. So also hit like and subscribe, and then go to patreon.com/calltheline. I was trying to make you laugh and ruin the take. That's why that silly face earlier. If I was on a polyamorous dating show, I would just choose everybody. Except Frederick. Leave a comment.